Last thing, now this one, I mean, Jimmy is 100% right. So he's been saying this a lot, that, TYT have been smearing Julian Assange. And so he points out to a few things. So first he pointed out how, with the whole Russiagate and everything during that time, Jenk, there's video of him while he was doing the show. He's like, I can't really trust Julian Assange now. What if he's like withholding information that will be good for Hillary, but putting out stuff that are good for Trump? So he just kind of started undermining him and where he would sit and all this debate. But then there's the other video that they show where Anna Kasparian is kind of going through some comments recently, and someone asked her, have you heard about Julian Assange? So Julian Assange recently got a really big court victory. And she was like, I'll look into it, as if someone is mentioning something obscure. But they finally did a 10 to 15 minute section on the fact that Julian Assange, so first a week ago, the court ruled that he can't be extradited to the United States, and the only reason that the judge gave was the fact that he could possibly commit suicide in American prisons and they can't guarantee his health. But then after that, 2 days later, he was unfortunately denied bail, so he's still stuck in prison as long as the U.S. is appealing the case. So that's kind of the gist of it. We made another video about this. We'll link it in the description box if you just want to get the details and some of the reactions, and the UN saying how Julian Assange was tortured this whole time and everything. But then, okay, so Anna Kasparian is covering this video. The length is 10 minutes. It sounds good, but I was just really disappointed about her coverage. So very, very matter-of-factly, she kind of just reads, this is what happened, he's free, no kind of emotions that other people are perhaps showing as, this victory for Julian Assange. But that's fine. But that's fine. Sure. Exactly. That's fine. But this is what really got to me, is that she just said that, okay, so the court and the judge said that, yeah, you cannot be extradited to the United States because our prisons are not good. And then the rest of the video, the rest 7 minutes of the video, she was joined by this other host, this lady, and she often talks about African American issues and domestic problems, right? So I was like, I know what she talks about, so I was kind of surprised that she was there. So from there on, they just shifted the conversation just about the U.S. prison system.
Not unsubstantiated, claims, and people are constantly just being driven by social media emotionally. And it's interesting to hear other countries' take on our prison system in this country. I mean, the light has been, the light is on us now. I mean, George Floyd, which people think was some kind of revolutionary thing that really showed us, but it really just showed a lot of others what we have known for a very long time, where another country is stepping in to protect this white man to say, we're not sending him back because we know what could happen to him if he goes to this horrific place. Just imagine all the black men and women and people of color who are in this prison system. But the other thing is that we just have lost our way in terms of really holding our own government accountable for what they do. And how could we honestly call ourselves patriots and say that we love this country when we can't really hold them accountable for what they do? It's become this celebrity worship when it comes to our government. And it's just gross. I mean, I've said that word once before on the show. It's just horrible to look at the fact that how dirty this government has gotten. It's just dirty. It's operating in street business. You prosecute black people and brown people constantly for behaving this way.
And the rest 7 minutes of the video, nothing about, that the judge didn't say anything about the freedom of speech, that the judge has agreed with everything, all the accusations that have been made by the United States. So she didn't mention any of this, and it just became this conversation about US prison is not good, and then it just became about people in the US getting locked up in prison and all this. And so I just found their coverage to be, they just found one thing that kind of agrees and goes with their narrative, but completely leaving out everything else. So it was just really, really disappointing coverage of them, I thought.
Yeah, their coverage of Russia Gate, Julian Assange case, all of it has been extremely disappointing, and I think they may have developed sort of a resistance to the story. You know, like they kind of out of spite they don't want to kind of cover it because maybe because it highlights their previously largely ineffective coverage of the whole issue by them, and there was more expectation from them considering that they claim constantly to be and they are in some measures the biggest progressive news network within America. But they rather focus on mean tweets towards Washington Post writers than Julian Assange literally being potentially threatened with a death
I mean,
penalty.
the way they were talking about it, the way they were talking about it, you could like remove Julian Assange and put like some kind of random criminal in there. Like the conversation went like just that far. It kind of had nothing to do.
I haven't seen the video, so I don't want to judge, but I assume what you're saying is that it focused on the faults of like the prison system and the safety issues and all.
And I mentioned this in another video too, but I mean, thank God that the judge decided not to extradite him, and he's in terrible health condition and all this. But the way that sometimes even in Young Turks, the way when they were talking about the fact that he's suicidal perhaps and he's in like bad mental health and all this was talked about without context, as if he's randomly he's tired of this life, or he can't he's like Epstein and he can't continue to do whatever perverted and horrible thing.
Epstein was clearly murdered.
He was murdered, sure, but I mean it's just like why would Julian Assange be sad? There's a whole reason why like I mentioned, the UN has said how he's been tortured for 10 years. He's just not randomly like feeling down.
Yeah, I understand. They don't emphasize the context of his of his mental issues.
So I mean, on this point, I must say their coverage was really, really, really bad. Like, I mean, literally mainstream news level of coverage, or not better, and kind of made me think
to be
of.
Fair, mainstream, just they don't even cover.
Well, we talked about France 24 and DW last week, and
yeah,
but in the States, 100% American mainstream news, they definitely don't cover it, so they're not any better. But I mean, I have to agree with Jimmy Dore here, especially. I mean, pretty much they've been smearing Julian Assange's name in their coverage. I mean, it was really bad and disappointing. And then you just reminded me of one thing though, about how Young Turks are like the biggest progressive voice out there. Mm-hmm. And their channel and everything is huge. And they have 5 million followers now. And Jimmy Dore is pointing out how some of their live videos really don't get that many views. But I don't think that's because they've bought any of their subscriptions or anything like that. It's just that they've been around for so long that they're just piling up. And some people, probably don't even remember who the Young Turks are.
I think I'm still a subscriber, but I never go on their lives. You stay around long enough. And, people forget to unsubscribe. So
But just so we don't spend our whole day saying bad stuff about the Young Turks, you should go check out their video. I've watched this one like at least 3 times. It's with Anna and 2 other guests, and they talk about the whole girl in the hotel who just went insane with her mobile phone and everything in New York. They had a really good segment on it. It's gone like 500,000 views so far. I'm responsible for like 3,000 or 4,000 of those views.